I think we're live. Welcome, everyone. There's a bit of a delay in the video, so please forgive me for not missing your messages or not seeing them right away. But my name is Sean Shokumbi. I'm the founder of Leading Like a Lady. This is a platform that I've created to highlight women of the African diaspora who are leading and finding purpose in various forms in various industries and sectors. Today, we're emphasizing the African leaders on the continent, specifically in Nigeria, because in the next week and a half, I believe, we have upcoming Nigerian elections. And just a brief history about representation of women in Nigerian government. At least as of 2021, we are ranked one of the lowest, if not the lowest countries for equal representation of both genders in the country specifically, and of course, across all the countries in the continent. So it's a significant, huge problem. Right now, it's the last time I checked, the data says around 1% of government offices or positions in Nigeria are held by women, which is not excusable. We already have several first female presidents across the continent of Africa, and with Nigeria being the most populous and supposed to be the most popular country on the continent, we're supposed to be the leader spearheading all of this change. So in order to pay it forward and do my part as a woman part of the Nigerian diaspora, I have reached out to a wonderful organization. It's an NGO based in Nigeria, Abuja, Nigeria, called electher.org. And you'll be meeting some of the candidates that they support in order to help them run for elected office, specifically for their agenda. Sorry, I have it incorrect. Agenda 35. I was going to say the wrong
35.
one. Thank you. For their specific agenda to make sure that more female candidates are able to run for and be eligible for election across different government offices in Nigeria. And by God's grace, hopefully one day we'll have a female Nigerian president. So the way that the event is going to go is we're going to have you in the audience. You can read each of the candidates' bios by clicking on the link in the description box where it says that you can submit questions. Each candidate's picture is there, as well as their political party that they are part of, and also what their agenda is, which office they're running for as well. So please go there, read the bio, and as they are also speaking and introducing themselves during this conversation, whatever questions that you want to ask of them, and if you're thinking of ways of how you want to support them, please type that into the chat. The one way that we already know that you can support them is by donating to Elect Her. So that's elect-her.org. Go to that website once the live stream is finished, and please donate and contribute to this great organization that is helping to fuel their campaigns. So without any further ado, I'm going to allow our first candidate. Her name is Zaru. I think we lost her. Oh no, Zaru Bashir. If you can come on camera, please. And for the next 15 minutes, I'll put a timer on just to keep us accountable. Can you explain to the audience what is your most important political agenda for your campaign that you're running for? Of course, please quickly describe which office you're running for and the main priority that you have as a female candidate for Nigerian elections. Also, please tell the audience how you believe this specific agenda that you're promoting is going to guarantee a better quality of life for women across Nigeria. And then lastly, what is your call to action for those of us in the diaspora on how we can support you and others in your campaign? We can't see you, unfortunately. And we can faintly hear you.
But I don't know what's wrong with the video. But you can hear me clearly.
Barely. Maybe we should come back to you. once you fix, we'll give you some time to fix the audio and the video, if that's okay. So you can go on mute, Zara, and then we'll go to the next candidate. Oh, okay, you're back. Are you able to speak, Zara? Okay, we'll come back to Zara. We'll go to the next candidate just for the sake of time, which is Joyce Daniels. Joyce, I'll put the same questions to you, please. Go ahead and address the audience and let them know what your primary campaign point is for your election.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sheung. I'm so grateful for this privilege. And I say thank you to elect her as well for giving us the platform to be seen, be heard, and hopefully get to the end that we desire. I desire to be chairman or chairwoman, Isan Central Local Government of Edo State. The elections hopefully would be in May this year. It's different from the general elections where we have the presidential, the National Assembly, the gubernatorial, and the state houses of assembly elections. That's different. So I'm on a different timetable.
You're on mute, Joyce, maybe by accident.
Yes, I think it was by accident.
Okay.
So I hope to win my primaries in March, win the election by His grace in May, and be sworn in immediately. So the local government seat is an executive seat. This is where we have powers to do development work, even within policy that exists, or to create policy. I have an agenda called the Life Agenda, where we aim to improve living standards, which is L. I is for infrastructure within the local government. F is for forestry and agriculture. And then E is for enterprise development. For the sake of this conversation, I'll focus on enterprise development. Why? Almost every other part of life will be affected when enterprise development is improved. When we have better knowledge of enterprise, how to convert resources that we have from human capacity to natural resources to business, how to fully beneficiate these resources, how to get them to market, how to interact with other markets outside of our local government. My local government is one of the smallest local governments in Edo State, so one of the smallest in Nigeria, if I dare say so. We are fewer than 200,000 people. So how do we collaborate with those who we term indigents, those who we term non-indigents? How do we collaborate with those who are in the neighboring local governments? We are what I personally call a bypass local government. So a major highway goes through us. If you're going to go by road from the south of Nigeria to the north, you will pass my local government, Eastern Central. You come in through River State, Bayelsa, Delta, Edo, pass my local government, and then you can go up into Kogi State and get into Abuja and all. So we are smack in the middle of major movement. So how can we fully beneficiate that as well? These are not the most difficult things. I say I am working with a realistic development plan. So we have the sustainable development plans, we have the realistic. So how can we teach people through the government machinery and then institutionalize collaboration? How can we be realistic enough to, for example, provide shared resources? We have a lot of farmers in my community who do need storage facilities for their produce, for example. Sometimes they need even desiccators to dry their produce. Government can provide a shared resource where all the farmers store in one place, or at least we have 3 within the local government, store in one place, understand the dynamics of how who stores what and when, who pays what. We can share cooling facilities. We can share other facilities like legal advice. How can we provide legal advice, legal framework for the business people within the local government? When business improves, the lives and qualities, or the qualities of lives of women in the local governments will improve, because guess what? We have more than 50% of business people in my local government as women. Why? many people retire home after active life in service or business in town. They come back home. Statistics show that the men tend to die earlier. Don't ask me why, right? So we have more older women in the rural communities within my local government who are still trying to thrive in their small businesses. So they will be the primary beneficiaries of our enterprise development plans and packages when we get into office. Studies also show that the quality of education that a family receives is directly in Nigeria, directly related to the quality of education and living of the woman in the house, not the man. So if the woman has a good business and is fairly educated, her children are likely to be fairly educated. If she has a master's degree, her children are more likely to have a master's degree. If she has a doctoral degree or doctorate degree, her children are very likely to get same. If she has little or no education, you find that many of her children are likely to get little or no education, regardless of how educated the man in the house is. So when business improves and funds improve, then education and access to education will improve for both boys and girls. So we'll have more girls in school. These are some of the ways that we would affect women. But I want to quickly add that as much as we affect women, we would also affect the lives of men, because we need the men in our societies, in my local government, to be at par. We need the men to be as economically empowered. We need the men to be as educated, as enlightened, and as open to change, growth, and development as the women are, else we would have another set of problems. This, I think, is one of the most important aspects of my campaign, and I've already said why. What I would need from people all over the world, within Nigeria, outside Nigeria, people from Edo State, people from outside Edo State, people who care about development, is partnerships. We will need partnerships. Partnerships for teaching, partnerships for learning, partnerships for digital exchange of information, partnerships for getting the work done. For example, when we want to have, when we decide to kick off an off-grid power plant for a business section within the local government, for example, and for anybody who doesn't know what off-grid means, it means it's not connected to the national power. So if we have a solar power farm that provides power to a particular community, that's off-grid, that is not connected to anywhere else in the country. And the reason why we're looking more off-grid is that the interruptions with the grid are just too many and they're out of our control. So we want what we can realistically control. So when we want to set off some off-grid power campaigns, we would ask people who have the best technology anywhere that is affordable to give us the resources in terms of expertise, in terms of funding, in terms of training our people to sustain the projects and things like that. We need monies to sustain development. We need monies to kick off development, but we only need monies when we have the partnerships that are ready to carry through the development. So I'm always careful not to ask for monies first. I ask for partnerships. People who have ideas from all over the world, who have seen something work somewhere and goes, oh, Joyce, for a community of 10,000 people, we can put together this kind of water resource, right? Water being the second highest need of the people in my local government. We can put together this kind of water resource for people in a community of less than 10,000. Oh, and we will deploy. All we would need from you is give us these number of people who we can skill, we can train, we can blah, 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 and this is how we support you. Those are the kind of development partnerships that we need much more than anything else. And of course, where we have monies, we have life. We have, because even the Bible says money answers all things. Money doesn't answer all visions, it answers things. And when we need things, we need monies, we need people, we need goodwill, we need We need support in terms of what you are doing, things like this, giving us platforms to speak, to let people know that there are people who are credible, who are willing, who are able and ready to do the work. So Shaun, thank you. I yield the microphone.
Oh my gosh, you did it all with 5 extra minutes remaining. Thank you. So that leaves me time for my follow-up question for you, which is when you talk about partnerships, when you're we hope that this happens, but when you get into office, what should people in the diaspora expect to be bottlenecks, and how do you plan to work with them to navigate those bottlenecks, especially when it comes to exporting goods that you might need? Like, so if they're bringing in these solar panels, if they're even bringing themselves in as potential public, to do like a public-private partnership, so as businesses, there's some sort of red tape, I would assume, that they have to navigate. So if you can quickly give some advice on how you will support them in navigating that as well.
The biggest key to reducing red tape and bottlenecks is communication, upfront, honest, clear communication, and timely communication. So if we continue to communicate, this is what we need to do, which is my duty to ensure that I communicate on time to the partners, potential partners across the world, and we agree on what is to be done. We begin to intentionally find specifics, because not every situation will have the same challenge. So there are, whether we like it or not, there are people to call, there are places to be at, there are funds to be paid, there are statutory fees to be paid in here, there, and there. It's to have clear communication, find out what is required, and get it done on time as best we can. It's also very important that when I get into office, my duty will be to, ahead of time, give very clear details as to how we can close gaps. That would be my responsibility. So that is what I also commit to. Clear, timely, detailed communication that people can fit into quickly enough. The other thing we'll do is to show examples of who has done what where and how it worked for them, and how we can borrow a leaf from what is done. So a lot of it falls on my shoulders and the people who will be in my team. And to that, I say we will deliver when the time comes.
Thank you so much, Joyce. I'm sure there'll be more follow-up questions for you. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you, Shaun.
I'll see if Zara, are you ready to join us? Okay, great. I will pin you, and I'll give you the same, everyone who's watching, please don't mind the noise. We're dealing with a lot of technical issues. I appreciate your patience with the candidates as they present their platforms. Okay, Zara, I'll give you your 15 minutes as well. You may begin.
Okay. Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Zahra, and I'm contesting for the seat of House of Representatives of my constituency, which consists of Kura, Madobe, and Garumana. So I don't know. I'm one of the youngest, and I'm competing with well-established men in my constituency, and sometimes people feel like, oh, you're competing with those that are beyond your level, which I feel that's not what we are talking about. So
Sarah, can you tell the audience, what is your primary platform for your political campaign? So if you had to choose one specific agenda that you want to highlight for today's conversation, what would it be and why? Okay, I think maybe the signal might have gotten lost. So so sorry, Zara, we'll come back to you again, and we'll go to, I think we just lost our other guest. Sorry, everyone. Technical difficulties. It's a fact of life sometimes. Um, so while we wait for the other two candidates to return back, this maybe will be a good time for the leaders of Electair to talk about your organization and why you feel that the work that you're doing is critical at this moment. So I'll start with Imade, if you don't mind.
Of course, of course. Hi, Sean.
Hello.
This is good to like be speaking, to you, or to see you, basically. So yeah, I think hello everyone. I think I'm meeting a lot of people here for the first time, but it's nice to meet everybody. My name is Oluwaseun Imade. I'm the advocacy and communications lead at Electra. So basically about our work at Electra, as you would know, basically is that we are a party agnostic NGO working out of Nigeria presently. But what we are looking to do is advance the inclusion of, women or female participation in politics and in public life as well, right? It's really no news, the dearth of, really like female participation in politics. It's no news how patriarchal the Nigerian society generally is, right? But it's also important for our democracy that women are aptly represented in office. And it's one thing to talk about it, it's one thing to advocate, it's another thing to put your weight behind the words that you're saying, right? Which is what we are trying to do, which is key in, in us getting the results that we are seeking, as much as we are doing lots of top level policy work, as much as we are engaging, stakeholders where necessary, as much as we're trying to push a lot of reforms, right? On that end, there's also the other end of saying, oh, we understand that, how many women, so to speak, how many women can reach sort of like the, the requisites, funding requirements to run a good campaign, right? How many women have that sort of backing? How many women have that sort of like media and resource support, right? To be able to achieve the goal, get into office, because it's no, these things is in Nigerian parlance, like it's not beans to get this thing done, right? And then, but what we can do is be able to put structure, right, and a lot of weight behind select women, right, and help them hopefully achieve their goals, right? Regardless of whatever party or whatever institutions they find themselves. Of course, we have a lot of requisite qualifications that you have to meet, baseline qualifications for you to then be part of that campaign. But yeah, on that being, or on that foundation is what Agenda 35 is built on, right? Hence the candidates that are, or some of the candidates that are sitting in front of you today.
Thank you so much. I didn't realize we're name mates. Thank you so much, Joe. You should have corrected me. Thank you so much for that presentation. Okay, we have Rukaya here. So I'm going to pin you as our speaker. And I'll allow you 15 minutes, just as we did with Joyce, to present your platform, the main one that you want to highlight for today, how it is going to impact the quality of life for women in Nigeria, and what is your call to action for those of us in the diaspora so that we can support you. And your time begins now. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. I really appreciate what Electa has been doing for the Agenda 35 candidates. We get select Suraya Shutu. I happen to be the youngest APC candidate in Nigeria contesting for state assembly, State House of Assembly, member representing the Wodi constituency in our local government of Kwara State. Being someone who is aspiring to be a lawmaker, which I believe that the legislature is an institution that represents the common and collective interest of the citizen through enactment of laws and exercise of oversight function on the activities of the executive arm of the government. So as a legislative arm of government, it happens to be an independent institution that strengthens the democracy. With the atmosphere we have right now in Nigeria, as Nigeria being a developing country, we are still behind in terms of those that are in the legislative arms of the government. It's about me contesting for the seat. It's about having the right information about the job, having the right knowledge of the job. Because as a lawmaker, I believe we only have 4 things, which has been part of my manifesto since I declared my intention, which part of it was the quality representation. That's number one of it. That quality representation is when you know the essence of you being a lawmaker for your constituency. That's when you were able to represent their interests well when you get to the state level. And the second one is the executive oversight. That's the second one before the executive oversight, that's the lawmaking. That's the real, which is the major work of a lawmaker. That's when you will propose a law that you know is going to fit in the needs of your people, that is going to enhance the welfare of the people you are representing and the general society. Aside that, that's when we get to the executive oversight. That's just a major part of a legislator work, being having an oversight of what the executive are doing. And the third one, which I see as a minor one, but due to the kind of society we have, due to Nigeria being a developing country, we need the constituency outreach. That is when you will facilitate government, you lobby with people, facilitate the government dividend to your society, to your constituency. And another way, you reach out to people, like even not at this point, you don't need to look inside the government alone. You have to think outside the box. Even outside the government, what can you bring in for your constituency? Because at times the burden might be too much, there might be too much on government sometimes. But being someone who really have the right knowledge about the job, you can always tap for opportunities, tap for strength outside the government, which is about partnering with several, maybe NGO, CSO, even. That's where we talk about people at the diasporas. We have things sometimes that our people need in the constituency. In my own constituency, basically is a rural environment, which what we do most especially is agriculture. So, and what we need basically in our own constituency, yes, we have schools, yes, because this government he has done a lot. The government has done a lot. And when we talk about water, when we talk about good roads, sometimes even electricity. So this is one of the key important things that our people, which I understand from our people. So for us to have this thing, yes, it cannot be enough, but if you can actually do your own bet, your own right part in this kind of regard by looking inside the government alone, also partnering with other people that you can talk to them. This is what the people need. Try and discuss, put a proposal, a right proposal to them, and you help your people, you help yourself from that avenue.
Thank you. And with this as your central focus, especially the development of rural communities, how do you think that Nigerian women or men from the diaspora can help you with that regard? What kind of resources do you need? What kind of, like as Joyce gave before, examples of ideas, what would be the specific way that they should help that would actually lead to positive outcomes for your agenda?
Thank you very much for that question. But before I go there, I know from the question you asked earlier, you talk about women representation in politics in Nigeria, especially. At this point, we women, I'm very sorry to say this because I have met with several women, just few people were able to divine their goals very well. Because at times, the only goal that we have is because we are being sidelined, nothing other than that. Because even you talking about youth, because we are going there because we are being sidelined, which I see as a flimsy goal that holds no water in what we are saying, in the situation of our of our country's politics. So we need to think outside the box, not only because we are being sidelined, not only because the political process is being biased to us. We can always reset Rome, it's not built a day. So all of this thing, it's ourselves, like women or youth, we need to take every responsibility by ourselves. Then when they are seeing what we are doing, the kind of impact we are making, then the world will fully embrace us. So aside that, let me put that aside. So going to how people in the diaspora can support, as I said earlier, that in my own constituency, basically we do farming. What we do, and the most things we need for us to empower a farmer, it's about providing the necessary tools for the farmer to use in the farm. The part of this include the good road, include even the electricity, include the good water, the tractor, all of these things they use in farming. So people in the diaspora, if they can see from this angle and support our people through all of these, yes, they are very impactful. Because I know anytime, I know some boroughs, even electricity within this short period I have repaired with my money, and I know how they were so happy. Sometimes something that you will feel it's just a little thing. Yes, it might be a little thing, but it's a huge thing for them over there, because at that area, Nigeria is still developing. Those areas too are part of what makes Nigeria still developing.
Thank you. Everyone's finishing so early, so that gives me time for follow-up questions. I love that. I want to go back to what you were mentioning, Ruka, because I think it's an important point about women not being able to define what their needs are. Maybe because for so long they've been denied that ability to even be considered, that they don't even think about it or have never tried considering it before. Do you think that mentorship will help in that area? And if so, why? Like, if it would help if you would connect women in your community with mentors, either in Nigeria or outside of Nigeria, to support them in that kind of social emotional development. What do you think?
Yes, you are right with that mentorship. Yes, we have felt us being happens to be privileged, because I used to say it's a privilege, because sooner or later this position I'm looking up to, yes, by God's grace, I'm going to get there and I'm going to leave that space. So what next? I don't know. For every time you have an opportunity as a woman to be in a space, that's another part when they say women are not supporting women, are the one not supporting. Yes, because sometimes when we get to that peak, we stylishly look down on those that are coming up, and instead of us to bring them up, because I believe nobody is self-made. Someone somewhere, even there are some people you don't even know, either by prayer, whatever, they are supporting, because we are not self-made. We need to mentor other people, because it is when you mentor other people, your legacy will continue. You can't be forever. You can't be a champion forever. There will be a time you will expire. It is what you put down that will serve as a legacy. So that is when mentorship, having a good heart, by supporting other people to come on board as well, so we can all fill this space.
I think what you said is excellent in terms of not looking at each other as competitors. You know, I talked about this recently on my channel, that, you know, we have this anxiety that there's not enough to go around, because we're already just fighting over not even a piece of the pie, but maybe like a crumb that fell off the table or somebody's plate. So it's a psychological thing that unfortunately has been built up with women over time, from oppression, from being left out of rooms, left out of decision-making opportunities, that whenever there's a little creak of a door open, that we're all rushing to it and we're pushing each other aside, rather than saying, how can we make the door wider so that all of us can enter at the same time. So
Yes,
I definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much, Rukaya.
Welcome. Thank you for having us this evening.
No problem. I think we are still missing our last candidate, Zara. I know, just so I can explain to the audience really quickly so that you don't wonder what's going on. I'm sorry. I was trying to pin myself, no worries. I'll just keep everyone on the screen. She was just released from the hospital. So she might be dealing with some connection issues where she's at. So you can definitely read her political bio if you go to the link that's in the description box for this video. And then if there's any questions that you have for her, please submit it there. And I'll make sure to get it back to the leaders at Elector so that she can respond as well.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Yes, I was going to say, so in conclusion, since we don't have our last speaker, just to wrap it up, I'm going to ask if Hafsat, if you can share some more with us about outside of the election, outside of Agenda 35, what other ways are you asking for help from at electher.org from the diaspora? What other ways can we look to support your organization in the future?
Okay, hi, fantastic. Hello, everyone. My name is Hafsat Sadiq. I'm the technical assistant to the CEO of Electa, Ibijoke Fabrode. As Rukaya has rightly said, mentorship. Electa ran a program called EP, Elected Future Lawmaker Program. So this is some sort of basically like a mentorship program, which I'm really glad that Joyce is here because she was a student of ours, actually. It's a program that teaches women how to be leaders, basically, because a lot of people do not really understand what the day-to-day, what the intellectual, requirements for being
We'll give the video a little bit of time to catch up. Apologies again, everyone. Just one moment.
I mean, I can pick up till she
Okay,
gets.
no worries.
All right. So as she rightly said, right, EFLP, from which Joyce was, a beneficiary of, and I think that it's a brilliant story to tell when you have somebody who has sort of like that back-end experience now be, such a front runner in these elections, and as everybody said, it was built on the vein of mentorship or the general idea of mentorship, because people don't know what it takes to be, a leader on that level or be part of the polity or be part of, where the actual decisions are made or how the structure of governments sort of functions, so to speak, right? So it's sort of a program within which we're able to sort of bring a couple of men together, women who are interested in political leadership in Nigeria, right? And then they sort of have like a front-end experience, right? They are directly interfacing with lawmakers. They sort of, have sort of that direct connection with them. So you can sort of see, how does this work? How does that work? There's that direct interface in terms of like how we sort of run that program. Yeah. So we have that, we have EFLP, even sort of leading up to the elections, we are also doing, I think recently, I think I discussed this with you when we had our initial conversation, that we release, an electoral violence report, right? Basically assessing the security landscape in Nigeria, but specifically in terms of like how it affects women, right? Because you have situations where there's a lot of reports about electoral violence, mostly when it comes to women, it's mostly when it becomes physical, but violence is not always physical. You get what I mean? So then we have a situation where we are also assessing psychological violence, things, microaggressions against women, when it comes to voting. You have some states in the north. I think I recently heard of this, where men and women cannot stay on the same line, right? So like there's already that bias in that system, so to speak. So how does it affect women psychologically? How does it influence how they vote, how they choose to vote, that sort of thing? So it's a very, very comprehensive report, and it's supposed to be released, I believe, before the end of the week. But we sort of had like a launch and sort of like an interfacing event with like various stakeholders. This report was developed with, I think, maybe about 50 different CSOs making just contributions, right? And then it was sponsored by the government of Canada, basically, right, on that CFLI initiative, right? Then following that, we also recently launched the roadmap for equity. It's basically like a 5-year plan, right? We know where we are. The female candidates, or even female participation in the elections for this year, for 2023 elections, is even lesser than what we had in 2019. You understand what I'm saying? But then how do we change that conversation? Is it, like I said, it's very easy to throw out very big words. It's very easy to say, oh, we are advocating for women, but it's another thing to actually put in the work that it requires. So what we've done with the roadmap document is to basically say, okay, this is where we are coming from, this is what has been done, right? But the reality is that we are not where we should be, but how do we get there? So that report basically just outlines, basically gives a roadmap for how we get to a more equitable Nigeria, for the next elections, basically. And then, like I said, this as well, it's not something that we are sitting down and saying, okay, this is what we think. It's very interactive in terms of how it was developed, right? We are calling people and saying, what have you done? This organization that is focused, that is gender-based, what have you done, right? But then collectively, how do we get here? So it's a document that we are then going to present to like several CSOs, several high levels, stakeholders and things like that, to say, okay, it's not enough to just develop this document. We have to actively engage with this document. It's also important that the populace knows that this, document exists, for us to begin to mainstream those conversations. Because unless we get the public buy-in, so to speak, we can't drive in as much the need for change. Right, because we are not just fighting against, like, on the policy level, we are also fighting with the hearts of men. Like I said, it's a very patriarchal system. It's a very patriarchal society, right? And these things are ingrained in people from literally their birth. So we, via this document, we really want to change conversations about that. So those are a few things that we are currently doing. I don't know if that answers your question, Shell.
You bring up, okay, so I think we should really hammer in. First of all, everyone, I encourage you to go download that report once it's launched. So please, do you have a newsletter that everyone can sign up for? So that they'll receive the alert.
Website, www.electra.org, and then you just sign up for our newsletter. So I think we're going to be releasing newsletters very soon. So everybody would, once the reports come out, everybody gets the newsletter.
Okay, perfect. So please do that. And then I want to hammer in on, because we're talking now about elections or running for office as a way to start to instigate change in Nigeria. But you said something very poignant about the hearts of men.
Yeah.
That's something that's ingrained through cultural, the way that you're reared versus just other structural, issues that are going on in the country. What do you think are lessons learned from, because we experience patriarchy as well abroad. It's not foreign to us. But what do you think are lessons that maybe men, specifically Nigerian men, are potentially learning abroad that maybe they can use to bring back and help as well? Because a lot of times the first plan of action is, let's bring money, resources, our businesses, let's employ people through our own companies there. But we're not talking about like the inner,
Yes.
like that inner work that we need to do to further grow and develop and get this ingrained kind of discrimination out of the system completely. So outside of actual physical resources and monetary resources, specifically talk about Nigerian men, how do you think that they can bring what they're learning from the diaspora to Nigeria to start to change the hearts of their elders and also their peers?
I mean, I think you mentioned that you also experience patriarchy in the diaspora, right? Yes, maybe accepted on many grounds. The conversations around equity are way more advanced, right? Maybe representation is way better. I think we recently had an event with Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie in partnership with Whisker, where she basically helped fundraise for a lot of our candidates. I think Joyce was at that event as well. And one of the things she said was, like, as Nigerians, we basically have this pride. There's now this pride about being Nigerian. You know, Afrobeats is basically taking over the world, right? And then you have these gates to you and you want to flaunt your accent and what that sounds like. But I think what she was saying was that the reality is that all this country that we are basically trying to rub shoulders with, they have moved, they have moved the needle quite significantly compared to us when it comes to representation of women in politics. So should we be as proud as we, this sort of paraphrasing what her statement was, should we be as proud as we, as we are, or should we be somewhere at the back of our minds be hiding our face to shame? Not saying you shouldn't be proud of your country and, the cultural export that it has become, but you should also understand that there are robust conversations that need to be had, conversations on democracy, the conversations on representation, and how are you doing that in compared to the other, sort of developed nations around you that you're rubbing shoulders with. It's abysmal. So let's kind of be careful. I think in terms of the hearts of men, you are learning what a civil, inclusive society can be when you travel abroad, right? You are learning what a system of structure can look like when a woman is in leadership. You should be able to come back, if you have a chance to come back, to influence society, to basically educate people that inclusion is better, right? Than, what you are basically running, right? Which is patriarchy 3.0. You get what I mean? Compared to other, places around the world. But even aside that, right, it's also in terms of how you raise your children, because people grow, the only way to ensure change is basically to tap into like the grassroots. How are people growing? How are you teaching your children? How are you, educating them on inclusion, on diversity, right? On equity? What are you teaching them? What are you teaching them about the world, right? How are you shaping their worldview? Those things are very, very important. And in Nigeria, the men are basically seen as, is the head of the house. You get what I mean? But if you want to create that change, this is me speaking like in terms of like how it affects the heart now. How you create that change is by making the right influence, and it's starting from literally the family unit and saying, no, this is what you should do. This is how you should treat women. You get what I mean? I don't know if that answers your question, but that's a good.
I can add to that response from, as it were, the grassroots level, which is where I play. One major difference that our men, and I say our men because we have a lot of my people in the diaspora. If you know, Edo people are known to be everywhere in Europe, and especially ASAM people. So one major thing that I know a lot of ASAM men have learned and sometimes talk about, because it's not still a major conversation, is how expensive development is, and how the cost of unpaid work by women will affect us in Nigeria. What do I mean? In Nigeria, it seems to be a no-brainer for a woman to be at home to take care of children. Abroad, in developed climes, you pay heavily for such childcare because the woman has to work to support the bills that the home has to pay, because the society is developed. There's constant power, there's constant internet, there's constant, the railroads are working, the transport system is working. So the tax system is, the tax expectation of each person is higher and is better structured for collection. So everyone needs to be at the top of their game. Hence, it is affected by how educated the people in the home are. If they're both well educated, which will improve their chances of having good jobs and creating better businesses, their quality of life can be somewhat better. And in cases where they are not financially empowered or strong enough to run good businesses or have good jobs, guess what? They have, in many places and many countries, the government take care of people who are without work or without homes in some sort of welfare structure or the other, which is lacking here because, once again, we don't really understand the cost of development. We think that development is cheap, easy, and should be everybody's entitlement. So some learning to bring home is, when coming home for Easter, Christmas, or a funeral, which are the major reasons I see a lot of Nigerians come home: Easter, Christmas, funeral, or weddings. When coming home, have some agenda to sit with 1, 2, or 3 brothers or sisters and talk to them about the cost of development, which will, what's the word now? Will give rise to the conversation about equity, why everybody needs to go to school, why everybody needs to be empowered economically, why everybody needs to be heard, because the interventions and inventions of any gender could be the key we need to growth. So no more should we attend meetings and women are not allowed to speak, as it is in my community today, February 2023. Women are still not allowed to speak at community meetings. But if we understand that the development, the angles from which a woman or women can bring solutions, perhaps for the greater good, you should be allowed to speak. So it will no longer be a cultural issue, it will now be a development issue. That for the reason of development and growth, we need to hear what our women and our girls think and how they can help improve the quality of life and living for all of us. Else, we will cheat ourselves as a collective. That way, fewer people will move to foreign countries, to the diaspora, and be shocked by how they would switch roles to what we might have considered gender roles in Nigeria. Some families pick up from my community, go abroad, and some of the biggest challenges they have is, the man now has to take care of children, wash plates, and cook. Wahala for who no. So these are some conversations that can be had for development's sake.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joyce, for that. That was, well articulated. Everything said and done, summarized. So I just want to thank everyone for taking the time out today to talk about this. It's been very dear to my heart about building this bridge between those of us who are abroad and seeing what's been happening in our home countries, especially since the Lucky Toll Gate situation. Sorry. Oh, sorry, I thought somebody joined. Yeah, since the Lucky Toll Gate situation and then, everything with COVID, I think it's more, we already know that we've been relying heavily on remittances as the major form of foreign direct investment, for our country. But it's time for us to really be thoughtful and mindful about how we're making people's lives materially different than it has been for how many odd years that Nigeria has been independent. And I'll also just close on this. We're not a developing country. We are a country that's been robbed of our status due to colonization. And then later on, this capitalism, global capitalism. I think I was supposed to say globalization and capitalism at the same time, but you know what I'm saying. That's been, taking our resources and then profiting off of it abroad and not, paying it forward back to the country that they're stealing it from. So I just want us to also change that language and remind ourselves that we have the capacity to be better than where we are right now. Thanks to everyone who joined. I did see a lot of people in the chat. We had at least 19 people coming in. So we're thankful for you for joining. This is going to be on replay on YouTube. And I'll definitely share it with on the newsletter that everyone is subscribed to. So if you're not subscribed to the Leading Like a Lady newsletter and you're watching this, please make sure you subscribe to that, because then I'll always send video replays of this information. And I hope that all of you who are watching are actually planning to do something as was presented by the candidates in today's conversation. So until then, best of luck for everyone. Have a good evening. Take care.
Thank you.